Post-draft, we're noticing a lot of players that have inflated dynasty values, and so we're going to be moving off of these players, and we'll give you some example trades to make. The first one's Christian McCaffrey, though, and I was looking through crowdsource rankings, and I'm like, I'm just going to look for people who have seen a little bit of value bumps or are going in places where I take value-adjacent players. When you're looking at value-adjacent players, are Christian McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Kyler Murray, Sam Laporta, Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence, Malik Neighbors, Drake London, Chris Olave. I just named, 10 players? Is there a single one of those players that you're taking or you're not taking over Christian McCaffrey?
No.
So it's less about Christian McCaffrey, the player, and like the age cliff and blah, blah, blah. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you when a running back has an age cliff, especially when that running back is already 28 and he is legit the most productive running back in the NFL from a fantasy perspective. And there are definitely pros to keeping Christian McCaffrey. If you have a heavy contending team, you may not be keeping Christian McCaffrey. But again, it depends on the value. If you're getting Kyler for Christian McCaffrey on any team, I'm taking it. Like 100% taking it. If you're getting Jordan Love, I'm taking it. Wow. If you're getting Jordan Love, I'm taking that. Like that's value for any team. But Christian McCaffrey, obviously last year was extremely productive. I mean, he won Offensive Player of the Year, or he did win Offensive Player of the Year, right?
Yes.
He was the running back one. He had 390 points in PPR leagues, like 14 touchdowns on the ground, 7 receiving. The dude was unstoppable. He's a fantasy cheat code. So again, I'm not saying like, oh, this is, even though it's dynasty, like, look, I know points are important. Points win you leagues. Leagues win you money. Money is cool. Like, I coined that phrase. So I'm well aware of the benefits to keeping Christian McCaffrey and just letting him die on your roster. And I don't think it's a bad idea, but it's just one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, you know what? I think there's a lot of really insulated value that's going to be higher than this next year. Jordan Love, a good example of that. Kyler Murray, again, Malik Neighbors and Trevor Lawrence, like, especially the quarterbacks there, man. Especially the quarterbacks. Even Malik Neighbors, I'm tempted. Like, I cannot justify Garrett Wilson too. I cannot justify not taking one of those guys because I know those guys have a good chance to jump up in value next year. Where Christian McCaffrey, it doesn't really matter what he does this year. He's going to decrease in value.
Put up 30 points per game.
Because last year he put up how many points per game?
25.
And he maintained value. Yeah. Like, he's going to get a year older. He's not going to produce as much as he did last year. I don't think that's bold. The dude had scored a touchdown in every single game. Like, I think it has nothing to do with Garindo or anything like that. Again, it's just more of like, if you have a rebuild, you're definitely, or a reload even, you definitely are wanting to move off of Christian McCaffrey. If you have other good running back things or good running back at that position and you can get a quarterback or somebody with more insulated value, you're doing that. Or if you want to keep the points on your team and keep Christian McCaffrey and go all in for the chip, I can't blame you there. That's a good move as well. This is just, he's got really good value alongside of him, so you can pivot now and feel really good about it, is our point.
Yeah, Dynasty is a game of value. We are not playing the production cliff game where we're trying to predict that. We're playing the value cliff game, which is a lot easier to predict because people get scared of the age with running backs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Jordan Addison is going to be our next guy here. I don't know why he increased in value so much when they drafted J.J. McCarthy.
Like, did that help Jordan Addison? Because you've got what? He's got 4th round ADP, I think, right now, right?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that price, man. I'm not a fan of that price for a wide receiver too. I can get a wide receiver 1 in that range who gets more opportunity. Like for example, por ejemplo, Michael Pittman. I just spoke in Spanish. I don't know why. But Michael Pittman, like an actual wide receiver 1 who last year just got 160 plus targets in a season.
Who's not dead.
Who's far from it.
But has lost value and is in this value range now.
Yeah.
You're talking about this is a 4th round ADP on Jordan Addison.
Yep. I'm a huge fan of this. I mean, even a guy like, DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Nico Collins.
Yes. I take both of those guys.
Like Nico Collins is playing at worst the 2 in an offense where CJ Stroud is throwing him the ball. Guys, I was wrong about J.J. McCarthy and where he was going to be drafted. I've already admitted it. I take my L. And at this point, there's a point in rookie drafts where even I'm taking him because he has a phenomenal situation. I am not denying that whatsoever.
Smart.
If you think that J.J. McCarthy is going to provide more volume and opportunity for Jordan Addison than C.J. Stroud will for all 3 of those receivers in the Houston Texans offense, then I don't know what to tell you.
That's a great point.
I really don't.
I'll take the 2 in Stroud's offense over the 2 in
Caleb Williams, DJ Moore. We think DJ Moore will be the 2. A lot of people believe that DJ Moore will be the 1.
If you believe that,
there's no reason to be taking Jordan Addison over DJ Moore. It's all about the price with Addison. We love Addison. Huge fans of him going into the NFL as a rookie. We took a shot on him. We were right. He increased in value. Now the value is too much. we're going to be out at the moment until he decreases in value again. Then we'll be back in at some point.
I am almost sure that Jordan Addison's a guy that decreases in value year over year.
Yes.
Yep. I would really bet on that. Trey McBride is around him. In a tight end Premier League, take the elite tight end.
Yeah, I mean, this is the golden age of wide receivers in the NFL too. The more good wide receivers you have in the NFL, the more valuable your high ceiling wide receivers become. And Jordan Addison is not a high ceiling wide receiver because he is playing the wide receiver 2 in an offense.
I don't think people are talking about that enough. In fact, I think it needs its own video about the quantity of
wide
receivers in the NFL.
Because everyone thinks it's so deep. There's so many valuable pieces. Why not just take a guy later?
We're going to get all these players in here, and then people are going to start producing in single digits because there's so much.
Yes,
I mean, there's so much talent.
I know.
It's a double-edged sword.
That's why I'm trying to get out of guys like Addison and another guy.
Yeah.
Who we're going to talk about here in Devonta Smith.
Let's talk about Devonta. So Devonta, and I kind of was like, Nathan said this when I was kind of like, and Nathan made a good point. He said Devonta's really the only wide receiver 2 going in his range. And when you're looking at Devonta, the nice thing about him is he does have contract insulation. I like that. I like that he got an extension. That's definitely a plus for him. Mm-hmm. So if you're wanting to keep Devonta because he's a safe asset, because of the talent, because of the contract, I think that's a good enough reason to hold him. However, when it's a 3-year extension, $75 million, that's a good contract, guys. $25 million a year. When you're looking at what he did under a Shane Steichen offense in Philly, he had 136 targets and 7 touchdowns. This last year, he dropped 10 spots in PPR rankings. This is to wide receiver 19 and had the same amount of touchdowns, had a slightly higher yards per catch, but had 24 less targets. And let me tell you,
that was with probably the type of Jalen Hurts that you're going to see from here on out too.
You're talking about a 26-point difference year over year from PPR leagues. Out of those 26, 14 of those points came from a reception dip. And that's huge. In full point PPR leagues, you're looking for that.
Well, that's yeah.
I mean, and then the rest of it came from yards.
Yes.
So even the touchdowns being the most volatile, and then Devonta Smith obviously not being a super big, which was impressive, honestly.
Yeah, it was.
He's not a super big touchdown threat most of the time, but like maintaining those touchdowns. I mean, Devonta Smith, do we think he maintains or increases his touchdown rate again next year? It's volatile.
Yeah.
And again, the offensive scheme and the change and remind me who the offensive coordinator at the Eagles is now. Again, I cannot remember who
it's Kellen Moore.
Thank you.
Which makes me laugh, dude. I mean, they have too much talent to not win the NFC easily, but we're not Kellen Moore guys.
Look at CeeDee Lamb before and after Kellen Moore was in Dallas. And I was a supporter of Kellen Moore, but and so Devonta Smith, when you're looking at the guys going around Devonta Smith in these drafts, you're talking about guys like Rome Odunze, which Rome Odunze I think will be the one in his offense within the next 2 years.
He went 9th overall.
He did for a reason. People want to short a guy like that for being in an offense with another good receiver, but Devonta Smith's the same thing. But even then, Jonathan Taylor, right? Brandon Ayuk, Drake May, any high end rookie pick like that where I can get, absolutely. Even Tua, Dak Prescott, Michael Pittman's the one in his offense, like he mentioned.
Yes.
You mentioned Nico, the same reason.
Yeah.
All the guys there, I'm definitely pivoting. Brandon Ayuk is up there. Brandon Ayuk's the one in San Francisco, and he's the one wherever he's traded, right? I mean, you're even within striking distance of Tyreek Hill, and I would absolutely trade for Tyreek Hill. So with Devonta Smith, insulated value, good contract, productive.
Yeah, just pivot.
Just pivot.
Try to raise your ceiling.
And if you want to hold. Again, this is what we're doing with these guys. But the next guy on this list, I think.
Oh, Baker. Good old Baker. I love me some Baker. Just kidding. I don't really. But look, Baker Mayfield way outproduced expectations last year. All y'all Baker truthers who spent 23 first-round picks when he was traded to the Carolina Panthers because we thought we were going to see a resurgence.
That really only happened once, and it was because I bamboozled a dude.
I couldn't help it, dude. I couldn't help it. I just had to bring it up.
Yeah.
But look, Baker Mayfield gets a contract. It's all good. It's all rainbows and butterflies, fine and dandy in Tampa Bay. Let's not forget that they won the worst division by far in football, and it was not by a wide margin. They were just as close to missing out on the playoffs as they were to making it. And yes, they pulled an upset with the Eagles in the playoffs. Look, dude, anyone who watched those games saw Baker's limitations, and they were severe. limitations. Like, and even his production too. We're taking Baker Mayfield right now over Kirk Cousins according to market value, and he had an outlier season, 566 attempts, 364 completions, just over 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, in a down quarterback year with a lot of injuries. He ended up being QB 10 with 284 points on the year total, which amounts to 16.7 points per game. If you don't think that Kirk Cousins is going to exceed that for the next 2 to 3 years, I don't know what to tell you. And if you think that Baker Mayfield has some incredibly high ceiling in this offense that just got worse because Dave Canales is no longer the offensive coordinator there, I also don't know what to tell you. I think we've seen the best of Baker Mayfield.
I mean,
from a fantasy football
and
perspective,
from a fantasy perspective, like
I think he peaked out.
I don't think Baker has a ceiling. Like when you're looking at the rushing attempts, like even he had twice as many rushing attempts last year as he did in the previous 2 years. Granted, he played in 3 and 5 more games, but at the same time, 62 attempts and 163 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, I mean, you're talking about him scoring as the PPR quarterback 10 last year. And when for somebody who has 100 rushing yards and 1 touchdown, your ceiling doesn't go much higher than that.
Look, if you're going to bet on a QB in the NFC South not named Kirk Cousins, I would bet on a guy like Bryce Young, who has Dave Canales now.
Bingo. You absolutely, for multiple reasons.
You play the market.
He has the coach. He has an age advantage. He now has better weapons. He was just the number 1 overall pick.
Has not reached his value ceiling.
There you go. I mean, for a lot of reasons, we would pivot off of Baker. Now, obviously, you could look at Baker and say he got a little bit of a contract extension, and he was the quarterback 10 last year, and it's a super flex league. And so in a super flex league, I'll keep him. And I would say that's a pretty good reason. So I'll give you that. Again, that's why most of the time when we're suggesting to sell quarterbacks, we're pivoting to other quarterbacks. Rarely do you sell a quarterback in a superflex league and pivot to another position unless you're absolutely stacked at quarterback. So keep that in mind if you're ever pivoting off of a quarterback here. But let's talk about Jake Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson is super interesting here just because of his market value, and I think the excitement that the Dynasty community has with what he could potentially do. Let me just for funsies kind of, walk through his game log. After finishing as the tight end 8, that sounds really, really good. Top 12 producing tight end in fantasy football. I don't want to bore you here, but these are really, really big numbers. 3, 10, 9, 14. Good. 5.
It's tight end premium,
2,
by the way.
14, 22, 12. That's a good run right there. 6, 4, 19. Okay. 12. Okay. 10, 8, 7, 12. Off of 102 targets on the year, 71 receptions, 761 yards, and 5 touchdowns, Jake Ferguson is currently being valued as a top 8 dynasty tight end. And in tight end premium leagues, people are paying for him like he could potentially be an elite top 4 to 6 producing tight end in the NFL. Before I even make a case for why he's not going to do that, let me just list the company that he's being spoken about in at the moment. Okay. Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Hawkinson, Andrews, McBride, Kittle, and Kincaid.
You didn't even say Evan Ingram there. You didn't even say David Njoku there. David Njoku got a better last year. I'm trying to think who else.
That's already 9 guys who are going to outproduce him next year. I just saw a deal go down for.
Did you even mention Bowers?
Oh yeah, no, Bowers.
Didn't even mention Bowers. Yeah. Komet.
It's all about the price with Jake Ferguson, guys. I mean, number one, do not overpay for a mid-producing tight end and don't assume that they're going to really take you further in your contention on your team. I would rather take what I can get at a different position at Jake Ferguson's respective price and ride with a Daniel Bellinger. You're getting better value there. You seriously are. I just saw a deal go down where one of our supporters over at flockfantasy.com/domain, have to use code domain, traded Jake Ferguson like we recommended, threw in an additional late 2nd round pick, and got Mark Andrews. These deals happen, and they happen often. please capitalize on that because you are not getting nearly the amount of opportunity and volume in Jake Ferguson as you are an elite top 6 producing tight end like Andrews or anyone else that we mentioned.
Yeah, I think with tight ends, like you go for the top guys, especially in tight end premium leagues. Yes. So, all right, let's pivot over to a running back now. And obviously in Dynasty, like when we're playing, we like to be as correct as we possibly can. And one of the easiest shots to call in Dynasty as a content creator is when you have running backs who are not necessarily special by talent, situation, any of that. And people elevate them in their Dynasty rankings because of one reason: opportunity. And Zamir White's going to have plenty of opportunity this year, and I'm willing to admit that. When you're looking at Zamir White and what he was able to do last year, obviously, the opportunity wasn't great. When you're talking about opportunity share, he's 56th in the league. When you're talking about productivity, nothing jumps off the chart there. He was not a receiving back. He only had 1 touchdown.
What matters is when Jacobs went down with the injury in week 15.
Yes, and so we read the production for that.
Yeah, so he had 17 attempts for 69 yards, nice, and a touchdown for 16 points. 22 attempts in week 16, 14 points. 20 attempts, 13. 25 attempts, 12. First of all, with all that volume, I'm expecting a lot more than a ceiling of 16 points.
And here's the thing.
A lot more than a ceiling of that.
So what we have here is we have a mediocre running back in a bad situation with no answer at quarterback.
And they just drafted Bowers. They're probably going to throw the ball a lot. Like we just saw this with the Colts last year. Gardner Minshew is labeled as a backup QB, a bridge QB, which is true, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to be throwing the ball more often than he runs it. I mean, Minshew was throwing it 30 plus times a game.
True.
Often. He was doing it very, very often.
I mean, Zamir White last year, true yards per carry, 4.1. So that's good. But we always see that with backup running backs. Always what you see is you see backup running backs like this be more efficient than what they are when they become a bell cow. We saw this last year with Khalil Herbert. And Khalil Herbert the year before, he had 5.2 true yards per carry, 5th in the league. And we're like, okay, Khalil Herbert, he's going to be this elite back. He's going to come in, and then he was 20th in that stat.
The vacated volume fallacy with Alexander Madison. I mean, that was the big one last year as well. Well, I think one of the more important things to look at here with Zamir White too is we often like to highlight receiving upside for a guy that could potentially sustain his efficient production when he got less opportunity and translate that to more production. That was the big argument for Tony Pollard. That didn't even work out, but he still was relatively productive. Zamir White's receiving upside is dang near non-existent.
I mean,
like even when he was getting full bell cow workloads at the end of the season, he was not efficient with that receiving usage at all. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 16 yards. That's 4 yards per reception. 5.8 yards per reception was his best run there. And even at a game where he only had 1 target and 0 receptions, he's a body that you plug in for a year, wait for a good running back class. And when you have less needs at every other position on your team because you're a rebuild, and then you replace him.
I mean, when have we seen this work? Khalil Herbert didn't work.
No.
Alexander Madison also didn't work, right?
Akers 3 different times.
Akers 3 times.
Pollard, who's an actual good running back in the NFL, and it did not work to the extent that we expected.
We mentioned Madison. Alexander Madison. Didn't work. I'm sure there's more I'm even forgetting.
Yeah.
This never, ever pans out. And so from a value perspective right now, when you're looking at Zamir White and who you could trade him for, that's the important part here. Who can you actually, which I wouldn't blame you if you held Zamir White actually till he produces and then sell him, but I don't know he produces.
But I don't even know how much he's going to. Yeah.
You can get a mid-second. You can potentially get Trey Benson.
Bo Nix.
Trey Benson.
Guys, Bo Nix is falling to the mid-second in your rookie drafts right now. If you can give up Zamir White and get that mid-second to acquire Bo Nix, you're taking that all day.
Keep trade cut. Fair trade. Put it up, Luke. Zamir White and a 2024 late 4th round pick for Bo Nix.
Oh my gosh.
Guys, we haven't said this in a while. Dynasty's easy sometimes. Sometimes Dynasty's so easy.
Super.
This is so easy, my friends. Man, nobody's doing that. Yes, they are. Take advantage of somebody who's using keep trade cut and go make that trade. I mean, make any of these trades. Let's do it again. Zamir White and a 4th for Travis Kelce. Good night. Sometimes with these trade calculators, I can't. Again, you use the trade calculators to take advantage of people.
Not to say that it's accurate.
It's not. That's the whole point. It's not accurate. So, Zamir White, sell him.
Let's close it out with these 2 guys because we have exhausted these names. But Khalil Shakir, Actually, after the Keon Coleman acquisition in the early second round, he increased in value a little bit because people are super excited for that alpha potential that he absolutely has with Josh Allen as a true slot wide receiver. And we know how much Josh Allen loves to dump off the ball. So please sell Khalil Shakir for goodness.
I mean, okay, let's play the same game. Khalil Shakir in a late fourth. Trey Benson, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, Tyjae Spears.
Do you want to win your league? Isaiah Likely.
Oh my gosh.
Isaiah Likely is going to be our last guy here. It's not a sell video without Isaiah Likely. I don't remember the last time we had a sell video without Isaiah Likely.
We're just doing it for the memes.
Look, go get Daniel Jones in a super flex league and give up Isaiah Likely. You're going to get a starter versus someone who's going to be on the bench for the rest of his life.
Oh my. It's actually fair. Rodgers, Geno, Jacoby Myers.
Bruh.
What the? Every time we do this, it astounds me. Every single
astounding.
Like we did it as a joke this time, and it still astounds me.
We need to write a book, like the case,
like why? Yeah,
the case for Isaiah Likely, or the case against Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
The curious case of Isaiah Likely.
There you go. The curious case of you liking and subscribing to this video, if you would, please. If you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And also the curious case of you joining flockfantasy.com/domain with code domain. Use code domain.
Curious.
Choose a motherfucker
I hope it piques your curiosity.
And you get a team blueprint. One of these motherfuckers. And
doesn't that make you curious?
Look at that. It's for your Dynasty team. You also get one-on-one advice with that. You get our rookie draft guide. You get a chance to be in our $250 listener league if you're an annual member. And Nathan and I are going to co-own a team and try to beat everybody at that league. So, and
now
if we win, if we win, it's because we're awesome, and if we lose, it's because we just let somebody else win.
Exactly.
So it's good business to let other people.
This is the way.
All right. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you later.